Hello and welcome to this free patches video with DRADD from Pladask Elektrisk. This is a delightfully lo-fi Eurorack time machine. It's an effects module, and here's what's to come. This video is sponsored by Pladask Elektrisk. It was great to see Pladask venture into the Eurorack market, as I've been fond of their pedals for some time now. DRADD builds upon the algorithms and ideas in the Fabrikat pedal, and here's what Pladask Elektrisk have to say about it. DRADD is an experimental time-based audio processor intended as a tool for adding ambience and colour to your synth patches. The project started as an attempt at porting aspects of my Fabrikat pedal (granular synthesizer / sample playback) into the Eurorack format, but has since expanded with the inclusion of the tapped delay line algorithm. What binds this trio of algorithms together is their unnatural time-based audio manipulation. Though their methods are quite different, they can all be tuned such that they appear in their own ways to stretch, bend and invert time. So DRADD has free algorithms, and this is a free patches series video. We'll just have free patches. They're all linked down below for you to skip around. Let's first have a quick rundown of the panel, starting with the clock knob, and that will take us from an internal DSP sampling rate of between 50 kHz and 12.5 kHz. This will affect the grain sizes, delay times, tone, and plenty more in the various algorithms. Mod is a random clock modulation that you can think of as adding kind of digital jitter or lo-fi tape-style warble and chorus to the processing. We then have P1 and P2 for the two parameters, and they're different per mode as shown on the panel, alongside a free position switch to select the free modes. The mix control sets the dry-wet balance, and the loop knob has a positive feedback loop going from counterclockwise of center, and we have a decaying loop which is processed clockwise of center. This is a mono input and mono output controlled by the mix, as well as a through output for the dry sound, and we have CVs over loop, mod, clock and the two parameters. CVs add to these knob values, which remain offsets. So without further ado, let's dive in. So here we're taking a look at that grain mode. Parameter 1 and 2 become move and mode, as indicated on the panel, and we're currently listening to a granular time stretch. Here's the dry input sound. A blend of electromechanical pianos and piano sounds with no effects on, just dry into the module. Now turning up clocking up full, kind of highest quality, highest internal DSP clocking. We won't modulate the clock or add feedback and looping. Here we have a very neutral time stretch sound. The mode knob works almost like a switch, but with a kind of little trick in there, and going fully counterclockwise, we're in a continuous time stretch, and move becomes a playback speed and direction control. As I lower the speed, you can hear this kind of granular, kind of lo-fi time stretch effect. Going counterclockwise from center on parameter 1 reverses playback. And the sound here and kind of length of these grains is dependent on the internal clocking. And I like these longer grains. It's more kind of lo-fi time stretch with lower clock speeds. Modulating that clock will give a nice warbly kind of jitter. Almost sounds like a kind of tape flutter or vibrato. But going back up to quite neutral playback settings here, we have an interesting effect with mode, whereas fully counterclockwise is a continuous time stretch, and it stays in that mode until you pass noon, the center position on the knob. But going closer to noon, we add randomization of the grains. And that works like a scattering or smearing effect for this granular algorithm. Again, that works very well with lower clock speeds and changing the playback speed. We can add positive feedback and then modulate the clock. This scattering, smeared time stretch. It works really well as a rich kind of depth and texture mixed against the dry sound. Now kind of neutralizing this again but fully wet. Going all the way clockwise on parameter 2, mode here, works in a mode where we can then scan through the grains with the move knob. And again with randomization of these grains, the closer from fully clockwise you get to noon. Let's add some LFOs. We'll modulate loop, mod, and the 2 parameters. We've got this heavily modulated, kind of ripping apart of this time stretching under modulation from 4 LFOs. So here's the second mode, mid-switch position, which is TDL, the tap delay line. And here it is under heavy modulation, pulling it around between a complex network of delays and more diffused, kind of lo-fi reverb-like sounds. Let's strip this back and go through the controls. Now here's my input sound. I'm first going to kind of strip back this sequence a little bit. So here's a simpler input sound, and with both parameters at noon, mid-clock position, no mod and no looping feedback. Here's how it sounds. Now parameter 1 has become a shape control, and parameter 2 has become a verb control. With a slightly higher clock. Let's first look at shape. And this variably blends between 3 different shapes, or kind of volume curves for these delay lines, where we have a falling style ramp here, a flatter shape at noon, and a swelling, almost reverse style sound, fully clockwise. Parameter 2, being verb, will double the delay lines going counterclockwise from center. Let's set up a slower delay there, lowering the clock, and listen to how much this thickens up. It blends into double the amount of delays for a much thicker sound. And clockwise from center, it diffuses these delay lines in an all-pass network to create a nice lo-fi reverb. And again, with clock being the central clocking mechanism for the DSP, we get tonal and time shifts that really affect these parameters. Let's add some positive feedback. feedback can really help that overall feel of reverb. Whether you're looping, the loop works well too. Modulation will give a chorus-like effect. Kind of angry bees in a can or wasps in a can kind of sound. Let's get that under some modular control again. So it's a complex lo-fi spacious effect. Let's build that sequence back up to every note playing again. So this is the tape mode, which works like a modulated sampler. Here it is fully wet, under some modulation shown here on data. And here's my dry input, which are mutable instruments rings. Again, no effects, sound in, and the output is what we're listening to and recording. Let's remove modulation, and going fully wet here, turning the clock rate all the way up. In this tape mode we have random for parameter 2 or RAND and octave on parameter 1. With RAND set to be at noon in the mid position. Octave here will control the playback speed in 3 quantized levels, starting with a double speed, an octave up, fully clockwise, normal playback speed, half speed, and you can hear these result in pitch shifts. And then we have reverse playback direction, normal around 9 o'clock, reverse and double speed, and reverse half speed. Now going left counterclockwise of center on RAND, this will randomly change between positive and negative or forward and reverse playback speeds. Doesn't change the speed, just the direction. Going clockwise from center, randomly changes between all 6 settings. Both direction and half or double speeds will randomly change too. Let's clock this a bit lower. With feedback, we get delay-like style effect, positive feedback to the left there, and that relates to the clock speed. And if we have a pitch shift happening, let's say an octave up, we'll get cascading, kind of shimmering pitch trails. Let's say a reverse half speed, feedback. This is going to cascade down into this super lo-fi, crunchy texture. Let's have some randomly shifting playback, and then add some looping here. This creates these loops, and the amount defines how much that loop is processed before decaying away. Mod altering that clock gives that familiar, jittery, kind of tape wobble effect. Let's add some modulation. Drop a hard sync in the comments if you've got this far, and thanks for watching and supporting the video. Head over to patreon.com/DivKid to join my community and gain access to exclusives, and I'll see you next time. Bye!